Hello again, everyone. Edwin Learnard back once again. In this YouTube astrological segment, I'm going to be talking about the July 9th, 2017 full moon in Capricorn. Well, anyway, people, first thing I want to get at as far as the full moon goes, just in general, for those of you that don't know, full moon in astrology, this could really represent very unrestrained, uninhibited emotions that are not generally going to be suppressed very easily. And it could also be an outward declaration of something that has been exasperating you for some time and you finally let it out of your system. This could be a period where you hit a very strong boiling point. Also a period of where you reach this, it's really the full culmination of emotions. It's a very strong expression of this. And the thing too is it also can be something that was unveiled or disclosed that may happen, something that comes out during this time of something of some strong significance to you. And also, what was often started with the new moon or initiated with it may culminate or end at this time with the full moon, or at least it could be where you might make some adjustments, whether minor or major, to what was initiated with that new moon. Now, another thing I want to talk about as far as the full moon goes, the moon in general I think is interesting because, okay, the full moon, the moon is less than 1/4 miles from Earth. It's a lot. The distance from the moon to the Earth is a lot shorter, of course, as in contrast to the sun to the Earth. I think that's why a lot of people may resonate more with their moon signs than they actually do with their sun signs. So that's another thing I think is interesting about the moon in astrology. And also, and as far as this full moon goes, it's being in Capricorn. Well, of course, somebody with Capricorn prominent in their natal chart, they will feel the effect very strongly if they have the sun, moon, or ascendant in Capricorn. And of course, Cancer will feel the effects very strongly, as Cancer being ruled by the moon, they are impacted strongly by all phases of the moon and transits into the different signs. And collectively, everybody will feel this strongly, feel this full moon transit very strongly, but Cancer and Capricorn, I believe, even more so. So, well, as far as this full moon in Capricorn, well, this could be represent the ending of maybe completion of some business projects for many. It could be business developments. It could be some kind of government work or related project might come to a head at this point. It could be something where somebody improved, that they reached that stature of life that they wanted to. It could be ambitions. Many ambitions might be fulfilled at this time for people. And the thing too is what's important to remember is that it's really important to look at the house that this full moon transit falls in, as this could impact you. This is the area where it can impact you very strongly. I'm going to have the full moon in Capricorn transit. It'll be in my 9th house in my natal chart. So this could be a time where perhaps some overly depressing or pessimistic philosophy I have, maybe or outlook might at a time. It might be a time where I say, okay, I've had enough of this, and it might be time where I decide to expand my horizons or go outside the box, so to speak. And keep in mind too, it's also this full moon is going to make a conjunction to Pluto. So these full motions can be very powerful and intense. So to say the least, that would probably be a vast understatement. It's also important to look at the aspects, if any, that are made to your natal planets or points in your chart by this full moon, as this is important as well. Now, like in my case, I'm going to have this full moon in Capricorn is going to make an opposition to my natal Mars in my natal chart. And given that, this could indicate perhaps some propensity for accidents due to some irrational behavior. So I do have to be careful as far as that goes. Also, it's going to make another interesting aspect. It's almost going to exactly in conjunct my natal Venus. So what I have to be careful of is perhaps women that might be prominent in my life, or even family, and really doing something that might have maybe an adverse impact on my finances. So that is something to look at as far as this goes. And my Venus is an extravagant Leo, so I really need to be careful. Or maybe some new woman could come along that might have an adverse impact on my finances, or even Venus, of course, is relationships as well. It could be over emotional behavior. Keep in mind, it's the full moon, the full culmination of emotions. So that strong emotional energy could have a negative effect on relationships during this time. So that's something I have to look at as well. Another thing too, what's interesting with this full moon in Capricorn, okay, it's also going to be involved in a cardinal T-square configuration. You're going to have the moon conjunct Pluto, and it's going to be it's going to make an opposition to the Sun and to Mars, a Sun-Mars conjunction, and you're going to have Jupiter in Libra as that midpoint or focal point, which could be really that I guess you could say that point of overemphasis, which you're trying to reconcile, resolve that difficulty that comes through that opposition from the Moon Pluto conjunction to the Sun Mars conjunction. And when you keep in mind that Pluto conjunct the moon, it's in Capricorn. Capricorn's associated with the government. Pluto can be associated with subversive activity. So you get what could be happening on a global level. There might be a little greater propensity for some maybe people trying to subvert government somewhere, or at least one government body somewhere. And of course, you have that Mars opposing it, adversarial, meaning of course Mars is about anger, so you obviously could get some very acrimonious opposition to it, and you could have that resolution to it. Perhaps you might have that strong activity connected with the as far as Jupiter being at that focal point or midpoint of this cardinal T-square configuration, Jupiter in Libra. You might have a very strong emphasis, and Jupiter being about is the exuberant planet connected with exuberance and expansion. So you might have a very, very large expanded interest in perhaps in using mediation, compromise, and negotiation to resolve that problem that could exist between that opposition from the moon and Pluto conjunction to the Mars and Sun conjunction. So it's something interesting to look at. And when you have a cardinal T-square configuration, it could be connected with a lot of exasperation and a lot of calamity, and being cardinal configuration, meaning the fact that it's cardinal, could be connected with a lot of action and activity. The problem is, you could have a lot of actions, things going on, people trying to do so many things simultaneously, because cardinal signs, of course, are action oriented, and you could have a lot of battles with the cardinal T-square configuration. You could have a lot of battles and unnecessary energy expended on frivolous conflicts, and that's another thing to look at as far as this goes. As far as something that's not as global, or maybe you might have more individuals affected by this on a much lower scale. You're going to have, you have the Capricorn energy making the opposition to this Cancer energy. So you could have a lot of this conflict going on between things that are connected with one's careers and ambitions, the emotional need for perhaps career change, and of course Pluto conjuncting the moon in transformation with this will give more emphasis on transformation in that, where you have the Mars Sun opposition to this, of course, in Cancer being connected with home and family. So you get the idea there could be some very strong conflict between career matters pertaining to career and matters pertaining to the home and then the family, and then and then you have that Jupiter in Libra in the middle of all this as that focal point, that point of overemphasis, where there might be very strong emphasis on trying to find a compromise maybe between those two. And so anyway, people, well, that'll conclude this YouTube astrological segment for the July 9th, 2017 full moon in Capricorn. Stay tuned next time, where I will be continuing my series on what I hate about the zodiac signs. Two things I want to get with you on before I head out. Firstly, the stars may impel but do not compel. And secondly, never isolate any single astrological element, aspect, planetary placement, position, configuration, influence, or what have you, and make an analysis of a person, astrologically speaking, based on this alone, because astrologically speaking, the person is the sum of all their components in their natal chart, and not just one. Until next time, people, stay well.